We are obviously watching some big developments possibly in the war in Ukraine.
That's right. Our top story this afternoon: could a diplomatic breakthrough be in the works after this week's state visit? Today, the Kremlin says President Vladimir Putin is open to peace talks on Ukraine. He also believes in a diplomatic solution. This comes after President Biden suggested that he is prepared to speak with the Russian leader during a news conference that we brought to you live here on this program yesterday. Biden spoke with Putin last on February 12th. Just before Russia invaded. Obviously, he was unable to dissuade him back then.
Now, Biden and Macron also reaffirming their commitment to supporting Ukraine during this state visit. Macron said he will continue to talk to Putin directly and, of course, discuss it with Biden. Now, Macron has maintained communication with the Russian president. For the very latest, let's get out to our chief White House correspondent, James Rosen, with more.
Bianca and John, good morning. While the prospect of direct talks between President Biden and President Putin may somehow feel more viable at this moment, closer to potentially happening, the reality is that officials on both sides explicitly recognized in their remarks that Russia and the West have staked out positions on the Ukraine war that cannot be reconciled. Mr. Biden has had very little direct FaceTime with Vladimir Putin. Some in the administration, such as CIA Director William Burns, have spent far more time with Vladimir Putin than Mr. Biden has. The summit in Geneva in June 2021, at which point the Russian troop buildup along Ukraine's border had already begun, clearly did little to dissuade the Russian president from invading Ukraine 7 months later. Here is the key diplomatic exchange over the last 24 hours, featuring President Biden at yesterday's news conference with President Macron and Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, an intimate of President Putin's, reacting to Mr. Biden's comments.
Fact of the matter is, I have no immediate plans to contact Mr. Putin. Mr. Putin is, let me choose my words very carefully. I'm prepared to speak with Mr. Putin if, in fact, there is an interest in him deciding he's looking for a way to end the war. He hasn't done that yet. If that's the case, in consultation with my French and my NATO friends, I'll be happy to sit down with Putin to see what he has in mind. He hasn't done that yet.
The United States of America still doesn't recognize Russia's new territories, and, of course, this highly complicates the search for some mutual basis for talks. To achieve our goals, Putin was, is, and remains open to talks with all parties.
And one other dour note sounded by the Kremlin. Peskov said, and I quote, "Absolutely, the special operation continues." John and Bianca.
All right, thanks to James Rosen at the White House. Let's welcome in now Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. He joins us for more on this. Great to see you, Tony.
Hey, good to see you too, John. Thanks for having me.
Well, Emmanuel Macron really seems to relish this role that he played. And after this state visit, he kind of looks like the main peacemaker here, not Joe Biden. Is now the right time for peace talks? Also, does Macron's push for peace match what the rest of Europe and NATO want?
Yeah, John, great question. I think so, yes. Macron does look really good. I think he reflects most of what NATO feels right now. I know NATO has spoken very strongly about supporting the war. With that said, as you and I both know, we've talked about, there's a great number of military resources going into this. There's concerns of potential miscalculation, as we just saw a few weeks ago with missiles going into Poland. Nobody wants this thing to continue. So I think Macron offering this as a path forward is good. But at the same time, John, as James just said, the Russians have made it very clear that one of the conditions for negotiation to end this is the acceptance of the 4 provinces as Russian territory. So that's going to be a huge hurdle to overcome. And at this point, I'm not sure if anybody's willing to step up and have a negotiation with the premise that those provinces are now Russian territory and they're going to be accepted just on face value.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. But obviously, we hear a willingness from both sides to possibly talk, and people, think peace. Wow, this would be amazing. Right. How would that work? I mean, people, logistically. I mean, would Putin, take a call from Biden? Does Biden need to reach out first? I mean, how would you see this even playing out if this dialogue was to begin, Tony?
So, Bianca, I think it would have to be via NATO. I think NATO has to be part of the conversation. This, in many ways, would, I think, reflect how we would have settled issues and did settle issues during the Cold War, where you basically have essentially some folks talking about the very thing you just asked. What is this going to look like? What will be the agreed upon framework we move forward to? So just to get to that, you're going to have folks sit down and try to determine what is the reality. Right now, Bianca, neither side agrees on the reality we're facing. That's the most difficult challenge to get past at this point.
Yeah, you know, the question mark on the end of this diplomatic breakthrough sentence we've been talking about is a very big question mark. And we've kind of seen this with some of the same players before, the holdovers from the Obama administration and the accidental diplomacy. The Iran nuclear deal comes to mind, the situation in Syria. None of that really yielded any fruit. So we'll watch this with a very skeptical eye. But of course, we are hoping for peace and a resolution there. And important point what Tony makes there, you know, if the Russians want this territory to be recognized,
there's going to have to be some give. It's
going to have to be, yeah. And obviously we have the war crimes accusations as well. Still a lot of hurdles to get through and a very long and cold winter as well. Tony, great to see you as always. Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, thanks. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Bianca. Thank you.